You parked your EV outside last night, fully charged, sitting under the open sky in the middle of summer. You woke up this morning, checked your range, and everything looked fine. But something was already happening inside the battery while you slept, and you won't see the damage until 2 or 3 summers from now, when the range quietly isn't what it used to be. The problem isn't dramatic, it never is. That's exactly why most EV owners never catch it. Let's start with the scenario that combines every summer mistake into one. You come home from work on a hot afternoon. Outside temperature is pushing 95 degrees. You've been driving for about 45 minutes with the AC running. You pull into your driveway, plug in, set the charge to 100% because you want a full battery in the morning, and leave the car sitting outside in direct sunlight for the rest of the evening. That's it. That's the worst way to leave an EV in summer, and it's also the most common. The problem isn't one of these things in isolation. The battery handles heat, it handles a full charge, it handles sitting in the sun for a few hours. What it struggles with is all three stacking on top of each other, repeatedly, across an entire summer. A battery sitting at 100% state of charge is already under chemical stress. The cells are at maximum voltage, maximum energy density, and maximum internal pressure. When you add high ambient temperatures on top of that, and then leave it parked in direct sunlight so the battery spends the next several hours cooking, you're creating a stress environment the battery has to absorb with no relief. The thermal management system activates to keep temperatures in range. That draws energy from the battery. The pack stays warm through the night, and tomorrow morning, you wake up to a car that's handled all of that just fine, at least on the surface. The damage isn't immediate. That's the whole problem. It accumulates session by session, day by day, until it shows up years later as permanent capacity loss that nobody can trace back to a single cause. Why high battery percentage plus heat is a bad combination. This is the part most EV owners genuinely don't know, and it's worth understanding clearly. Lithium-ion batteries, the kind in every mainstream EV on the market, experience more internal stress at high stages of charge. When the battery is at 100%, the cells are at their highest voltage. That elevated voltage, combined with the heat-driven acceleration of a chemical aging process called electrolyte breakdown, is one of the fastest ways to reduce long-term capacity. Think of it this way. At a 50 or 60% charge, the cells are in a more relaxed state. At 100% in 95-degree heat, they're under pressure from two directions at once: maximum voltage and elevated temperature, with no thermal relief if the car is sitting outside. Most EV manufacturers and battery engineers specifically flag this combination. It's not a fringe concern or an overstated risk. It's one of the primary documented contributors to long-term battery degradation, which is exactly why most manufacturers program a recommended daily charge limit of 80% into their vehicles in the first place. The practical takeaway is straightforward. For daily driving in summer, 80% is the right target. The remaining 20% is there for long trips, road travel, and the days when you actually need the full range. On a normal Tuesday in July, when you're covering 40 miles and parking outside all day, the difference between charging to 80 and charging to 100 is almost invisible in your daily life, and very visible to your battery over time. If your car lets you set a charge limit, and most modern EVs do, setting it to 80% as your summer default costs you almost nothing in real-world range terms and gives your battery meaningfully less to deal with every time the temperature climbs. Why fast charging in hot weather can make things worse. After a long summer drive, your battery isn't just warm, it's operating near the top of its thermal comfort zone. The AC has been running, the pack has been discharging, and the thermal management system has been working hard the entire trip to keep temperatures in range. Fast charging generates heat. That's not a design flaw, it's physics. Pushing high current into a battery produces heat as a byproduct, and the faster the charge rate, the more heat is generated. Under normal conditions, the thermal management system handles this without issue. But when you plug into a DC fast charger immediately after an hour of summer driving, the system is starting from an elevated baseline. It has to manage the heat from the incoming charge on top of a pack that's already warm. Charging efficiency drops. The car may automatically throttle the charge speed to protect the pack, and the battery spends more time at temperatures that accelerate that same electrolyte breakdown process we just talked about. This becomes especially relevant on summer road trips, when the instinct is to pull off the highway, fast charge as quickly as possible, and get back on the road. That instinct makes sense for a time. It's harder on the battery than charging at a cooler baseline would be. The fix is simple. If you have 20 to 30 minutes before you need to charge, let the car sit. Give the pack time to cool down before you plug it in. If you're at a charging stop with a bit of flexibility, a short wait before connecting to a DC fast charger makes a real difference to the thermal load the battery has to manage. And wherever you can swap fast charging for level 2, summer is the season where that choice pays back more than you'd expect. The lower charge rate generates less heat, the pack stays in a more comfortable thermal window, and the entire cycle is easier on the cells. Before we continue, hit the subscribe button to stay connected with us. The hidden problem most owners never think about. Here's the version of this problem that even attentive EV owners can't avoid. It's not the afternoon drive or the road trip fast charge, it's the overnight parking habit. A lot of EV owners charge to 100% at night, which feels responsible. You want a full battery in the morning, when the car sits outside, fully charged for the next 8 hours while temperatures stay warm. In many parts of the country, nighttime summer temperatures don't drop below 75 or 80 degrees. The battery doesn't get the cool down window it needs. It spends the entire night at maximum charge level in sustained heat. That scenario, fully charged overnight in hot ambient temperatures, is a quieter version of the same problem as parking in direct sunlight during the day. The thermal load is lower, but the duration is longer, and it happens every single night without most owners giving it a second thought. The battery management system runs continuously, monitoring temperature and activating cooling when necessary, drawing from the pack to power it. By morning, the car looks fine. The range reads full. Nothing flags a problem. But this is exactly how slow degradation works. It doesn't show up in a single session. It shows up 2 summers from now when the range ceiling is a few percent lower than it was when the car was new, and nobody can explain why. The counter habit is easy to build. Use scheduled charging to start charging a few hours before you plan to leave, rather than plugging in the moment you arrive home. That way, the battery reaches its target charge level close to departure time, spends less time sitting at high voltage in the heat, and starts the drive in better thermal shape. What smart EV owners do instead. The habits that protect your battery in summer aren't complicated, they're deliberate. And once they become routine, they cost you almost nothing. Park in shade whenever the option exists. On a day when temperatures are pushing into the 90s and beyond, that decision alone changes how hard the thermal system has to work while the car sits, how much energy the battery spends on self-cooling, and what temperature the pack is starting from when you eventually plug in. A covered garage, an underground lot, or even a shaded street spot is doing real work for your battery every hour the car sits there. If shade isn't available, a reflective sunshade across the windshield significantly reduces interior temperatures. A simple, inexpensive fix that compounds over hundreds of hot parking sessions. Use preconditioning before you drive. Most modern EVs let you cool the cabin remotely while the car is still plugged in. The energy comes from the grid, not the battery. You leave with a comfortable interior and a stable battery temperature. And the AC doesn't have to sprint from 130 degrees the moment you pull out of the driveway. This is free thermal management, and summer is exactly when it earns its value. Let the battery cool before you charge it after a hot drive. 30 minutes makes a real difference. Set a scheduled charging window for a late evening or overnight when ambient temperatures have dropped. Use 80% as your daily charge limit and save the full charge for days when you actually need the range. And when you're on a road trip and stopping to charge in the heat of the afternoon, give the car a short cool down before plugging into a fast charger when you can. A few minutes parked in shade with the car off does more for your charging efficiency than most people realize. What I'd personally avoid in summer. If I owned an EV and wanted the battery to be in the same condition 5 years from now as it is today, summer would be the season when I'd be most deliberate. I wouldn't leave it sitting at 100% charge in sustained heat. That combination, maximum state of charge and high ambient temperature, is the one that battery engineers consistently flag as a primary driver of long-term degradation. It's also the easiest one to change. Set the charge limit to 80. Use scheduled charging to time the session close to departure, and the problem largely goes away. I wouldn't fast charge immediately after a long summer drive. The battery needs time to cool before it takes on more heat from a high current charge session. That's not an inconvenient habit, it's just a different sequence. Drive home, wait, charge overnight. I'd use preconditioning every hot morning while the car is plugged in. Cooling the cabin from the grid instead of the battery is always the better choice. And in summer, it compounds into real range savings across dozens of trips. And I'd pay attention to where I park. Shade isn't always available, but when it is, choosing it over a sun-exposed spot isn't a small decision. It's the kind of call that adds up across an entire season of hot afternoons. Summer feels easy on an EV. No ice, no heating load, no frozen mornings. That ease is exactly what catches people off guard. The habits that quickly wear down the battery are the same ones that feel completely natural. Plug in immediately, charge to full, park wherever is closest. The battery doesn't complain at the moment. It keeps quiet all summer. And then it shows you what summer costs a couple of years down the road. Drop a comment below. Do you change how you charge in summer, or has it been something you've never thought about? And subscribe if you want more content that actually gets into what's happening with your EV, not just the surface level tips.